He's just a regular guy with a cool job that God loves for some reason. Welcome to the Steve Marston Show, a daily journey in learning how to live more like Jesus, conversations with those that God is working through, and dad jokes. It's the most unique show you'll hear today. Now, here's Steve.
All right, greetings. Welcome in. It's the Steve Marston Show. And yeah, 31 years is a long time. Today, Truth for Life is celebrating their 31st anniversary as a ministry with their teacher, Alistair Begg. And we're going to do something special coming up toward the end of the program to help celebrate that. So I hope you'll stick around for that. And today's Friday, which means we turn the fun up to 11 on Fridays. We've got our Babylon Bee review coming up here in just a little bit. And we've got dad jokes coming your way as well. Adam Holtz will join us from pluggedin.com, which is a part of Focus on the Families Ministries. We'll talk about new movies and new streaming TV shows and all the like that is headed to the theaters and headed to your home screens soon. So lots to do today. Well, I wanted to start with what we've been talking about the last couple of days, and this is answers for unbelievers. I originally titled it as like atheists, but I don't know that we even really run into true atheists in our day-to-day walk. But there are times when we'll run into people who have serious, legitimate questions that really we have to know the answers to be able to properly defend the faith, because that's what we're called to do. We're not just called to be a good church goer and to, be nice to everyone and all of that good kind of thing. We are here to be able to point others to Jesus. And that means, in part, answering some of their questions. And we've gone through some of the most raised questions over the last couple of days. So if you've missed a few of them, you can go back in our archives at our websites on the radio stations or at stevemarstonShow.com. You can check them out and hear the questions and the answers. But today I wanted to hit on something that comes up a lot, and that is faith versus science. Because the argument gets drawn, you're either one side or the other. You can't be in the middle because there is no middle. In fact, I remember years ago, I used to teach a 5th and 6th grade boys Sunday school class, and they were getting into going to these science classes where they were really starting to teach about evolution and the whole thing. And I said, guys, don't fall into the trap of having to pick a side, because science and the Bible fit like a hand in a glove. It really does. And for anyone to think differently is either just uninformed or they are just trying to pick a fight. So I want to talk to those that are uninformed and would like to know more how science and the Bible works together. I mean, you can look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, and you'll see passages where writers are talking about the wonder of creation and the beauty of it and how it all forms together and how God's hand is on it. Now, I know some people will say, well, that's circular logic and you can't have the Bible be the answer for questions about the Bible. Okay, I understand that. But when you also look at some of the greatest scientists that this world has ever produced, most all of them were believers. And I mean strong believers. I mean, you can look at Isaac Newton. And Isaac Newton's case is so fascinating to me because he went out of his way to make sure there wasn't any bias in his scientific research. Meaning he, being a tried and true, dyed-in-the-wool Christian, wanted to make sure that didn't influence his scientific methods of the way he went about his business. So he went to great pains to do it. And what was his result? His result is that there is order in everything from we as people to the universe to everything else in creation. There is an order, there is a design, and there is someone behind that design. Really good stuff. You look at Kepler, he was an astronomer in Germany, one of the first ones to really be able to design telescopes to look around the universe. And it's just amazing. And again, he kind of had the same thing that even though the universe is so big and so massive, everything is running together like a clock, those gears just turning all together at the same time to make things happen. There's no chaos out in the universe. He was one of the first people, Kepler, to say it's all ordered. It's all A to B to C. It's really fantastic stuff. And then you look at some of the more recent ones. Francis Collins is the ones who helped pioneer the Human Genome Project. And he also is a devout Christian and was able to show how our bodies and the DNA structure is so complex, but yet so ordered in how it's replicated through every cell in our bodies trillions of times over. So when we start to think about these cases of saying, well, you have to pick one side or the other, no, you don't. Now, does that mean every time science agrees with faith in the Bible? No, it does not. Especially the one bone of contention is how the universe came to be. And really, you can't put a scientific method on that because by definition, a scientific method is something that you can observe and then test and then replicate. That's the basic building blocks of a scientific method. Well, nobody was here when the universe began. We don't know. We look at the evidence, and I don't know how anyone else can look at all of the evidence together and not point to some kind of higher power. The Bible describes him as God in three persons that created everything. And I choose to put my faith in that. But people who don't believe in that will say, well, it just came out of a big bang. There was just this tremendous force going on and tension, and boom, everything exploded. And it came out to be what we see today, which, again, going back to especially Kepler, but also Newton too, chaos doesn't lead to order, and order doesn't lead to chaos, right? It's either one or the other. You don't have this great, huge explosion creating all this chaos, creating the universe and everything in it, and then having all of it come to order the way it is. That just doesn't make sense. But outside of those two examples, for the most part, what we're looking at is science being defined by what God has already created. And again, you look at some science textbooks, go back 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. They're going to be different now because science is always changing. The Bible never changes. The Bible standard is what it is today, tomorrow, and forevermore. But science will change because mankind is constantly learning more, discovering more of what God has created. So don't ever let anybody put you on one side or the other, because science and faith, they do work hand in hand. And it's proven all throughout Scripture. That's today's opening statement. Stay with us. Steve Marston Show continues before you know it. Thank you for listening. Two great radio stations, AM 630 The Word in San Antonio, Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock. Of course, we're streaming live the video all over creation. I mean, you can't get away from us. Between the 3 and 4 o'clock hour on weekdays, we are everywhere. Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X. We've got you covered on all the major social media platforms. And then we've got our podcast. You can always go back and listen on your own time. And that's worldwide because we literally have people listening on the other side of the world. I don't know why or how they come across us, but I'm thankful that they do. So lots of ways to connect with us. Oh, and you can always send me an email, steve@salemmedia.com. Okay, on Fridays, we like to go through some headlines. And most radio stations you'll come across will review things from the New York Times or Politico or the Washington Post. I mean, if the Washington Post still has, writers and stuff, because they got rid of about half of their staff. All of those different sources you can hear anywhere else. Not here. We're different. We bring you headlines and segments from the Babylon Bee. Let's get started here. The Bee is a satirical website for the church bubble, and it's something that I just love. It's something I relate to, something I wish I had thought of to create myself. But since I didn't, I do the next best thing. I bring it to you. So here from the Babylon Bee are 10 things that are perks of being a Protestant. Okay, the difference. You've got your Catholics and maybe even your Orthodox. They're kind of set apart. They do their own thing. And then the Protestants kind of rebelled a little bit. This big church history thing. Martin Luther, you can Google it, kids. So here are 10 amazing perks to being a Protestant. Are we ready? Here we go. Number 1, way fewer statues. They're really creepy at night. Did that statue of Mary just move? You never know. Number 2, you can get marital counseling from someone who's actually married. How can Father Baxter possibly empathize with the number of Amazon packages you get? Okay, see, there you go. That's a huge thing, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a believer or not. So one person in the house is the Amazon orderer. The other one is the Amazon griper. Why we got so many packages? Number 3, you and Larry the Cucumber share the same faith. Well, of course you do. How many do Catholics have? Mel Gibson, please. Again, these are the Babylon Bee's writings. I'm just reporting. We're up to number 4 on the list of 10 amazing perks of being a Protestant, according to the Bee. 95 more theses than Catholics. They have what? 1 thesis? Boring. Number 5, fewer shifty Italians hanging around the church. It's comforting when your church has a strong no mafia policy. Hey, look, I don't want to get it wrong with the Italians. Number 6, 7 fewer books for your Bible in a year plan. You can still finish, but it'll hurt less. I mean, really, that's right. A Catholic Bible has the books of the Apocrypha is what they call it. And it's 7 more than the regular Bible that you'd find practically everywhere. Where are we at? We are at number 7 on the list of 10 amazing perks of being a Protestant. Your choice of over 50,000 denominations competing for your business instead of just one big one. Sometimes it's just good to feel wanted, Number 8 is don't have some guy sitting in a heavily fortified city in Europe telling you to take in more immigrants. that would be the Pope, says just 30,000 dudes in skinny jeans saying that. Well, there you go. That one's kind of a push when you really look at it. You know, you got your skinny jean pastors versus the one guy who actually is from Chicago dealing out the advice on immigrants. Number 9 on the list of 10 amazing perks of being a Protestant from the Babylon Bee. Everyone gets to wear a giant pointy hat if they want, not just the one guy. And who doesn't love pointy hats? Am I right? And here we go. Number 10. Freaking lasers. Just like they had at the Church of Ephesus. See, there you go. No wonder Protestants and Protestantism took off. I don't think there's any more to say about that. It's the Babylon Bees in review, the 10 amazing perks of being a Protestant here on the Steve Marston Show. Okay, we do have tons more coming up for you. When we come back, we're going to be joined by our buddy Adam Holtz from Focus on the Family and PluggedIn.com. He is going to go with us through a bunch of the new entertainment that's out there. We've also got a special thing for you to help celebrate the 31st anniversary of Truth for Life with Alistair Begg. I had originally reached out hoping I could get him on the show today live because he's been on several times. Unfortunately, he's busy and unable to come on. So we'll have something fun for you about that coming up. And then we'll be getting to your emails. If you want to ask a question, and again, we're open to whatever. We're open to Bible questions all the way down to the silly and the ridiculous, especially on a fun Friday. Let's have some fun with the emails today. Steve at salemmedia.com is the address you can hit us up at. Steve at salemmedia.com. So we've got a lot to do between now and the time we wrap things up here on the Steve Marston Show. So we want you to hang tight, stay with us. We'll have more coming up. And don't forget, we still have the PDF available, which is 5 tips for Bible study. You can get that at stevemarstonShow.com/store. Absolutely free. Just some strategies for you to be able to help better understand the Bible. stevemarstonShow.com/store. All right, back in. Yes, indeed. On two great radio stations, AM 630 The Word in San Antonio and Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock. Thank you for being a part. If you're watching all over social media, we appreciate that too. And it's time to welcome in our weekly guest on Fridays, Adam Holtz. He is the director of pluggedin.com. And we love to have him on to talk about all things entertainment. So welcome back, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? Turn my mic on here.
Yep, there you go. All
Years of
good.
training. Years of training.
Right, right. So everything going well in your world, right?
Everything's going well in my world. We're in good shape.
Well,
Yeah.
that's great to hear. And I know we're still kind of not yet out of winter, not yet into spring, and it's kind of the same way with the movies that are coming
Yes.
out to theaters. We're not ready for those big box office blowouts that usually happen.
No, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, not quite there yet. So we're still kind of in the little doldrums, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean there aren't a few things to take note of.
Yeah, we've got a few things that we can touch on. One of them is the kind of film that it's so not Hollywood that if my description of it piques your interest, I would not waste any time because I suspect it will not be around another weekend.
Okay.
Just because it's a small, independent, quiet, slow movie. It has a bunch of values that will appeal to people who like nuanced storytelling and character development over bombastic explosions and, people jumping out of airplanes or chasing bullet trains or,
Mhm.
whatever Tom Cruise does, this movie is not that.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
It's just the opposite. Anyway, I'll stop teasing it. It's called Midwinter Break. I mean, it even has a title that doesn't tell you really anything unless you happen to be familiar with the 2017 book by the same name by Bernard McClervity or see, it's Scottish. I can't read it. Bernard McClervity. Yeah, there you go. Good enough for government work. And sorry to any government workers, not trying to insult anybody. It's just a saying. So enough with my silly banter. This is a movie about two people who've been married for more than 40 years, and they have a 40-year-old marriage. It's quiet. They're fine. It's not dramatic. They share space with each other, and perhaps not a lot more than that. And the two character traits that best define the two people who are married here, Stella is a woman, a Catholic woman of quiet faith and devotion. And her husband, Jerry, really nice, normal guy who happens to drink a lot. They escaped Ireland during the Irish Civil War. And sort of the central event or catalyst of this story is that this was, some 30 years earlier. Stella was shot, and she was pregnant at the time with what turned out to be their only child. And she prayed to God and said, God, if you'll save this baby, I will devote my life to you. And now, lo, these many years later, their son has come and left. He's a young adult, and she feels like she hasn't made good on her vow to God. And so she plans a trip to Amsterdam, which she initially frames as kind of a marital re-sparking weekend. But she actually has sort of a spiritual pilgrimage of sorts in mind. And her husband doesn't really understand how deep this spiritual dissonance goes in her. And it's just an exploration of these two people and their relationship with each other, and this woman's longing to make good on something she told God decades before, and a husband who loves her but doesn't really understand where she's coming from. I mean, honestly, you don't see very many movies like this.
No, that's what I'm saying. You would think that this would be appealing to some of the bigger names for distributors
Yeah,
for these movie houses, because this is kind of a throwback kind of movie to
it
the
is.
old days
It
where
is.
you had a very simple story, but it's got its nuances and complexities too.
Yeah.
That sounds like, I mean, just a fantastic movie.
Yeah, and it stars Leslie Manville and Kieran Hines. And to be fair, he has one of those those Irish names with weird symbols in it. I had to look it up online to figure out how to pronounce it. So I think I have it right. And they're remarkable. I won't be a bit surprised if come Academy Awards season next year, they get individual nominations, and maybe the film does too. I mean, it really is that kind of movie, and we're in the midst of Oscar season, and so often with Oscars, you get movies that are transgressive, you get movies that are pushing the boundaries, that are making political statements. This is none of those things. It's a quiet movie about faith without being a Christian movie in the way that we normally think about that genre. This is not that at all. It's a mainstream offering, but really, really interesting film, Steve. Yeah.
Well, it sounds amazing, and the fact that you're even mentioning that, hey, this might be something that the Academy Award people look at.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot. That says a whole lot because usually, as we talked about in weeks past, there are these movies that are have the very limited release that all of a
Right.
sudden get nominated. We're like, where did this come from?
Right. They're out for like 3 days in December, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
I'll also say it offers, I think, a window into the mystery of marriage. And I use that phrase advisedly. There's a book by a guy named Mike Mason, a Christian book called The Mystery of Marriage. And he says that the mystery of marriage is how knowing and unknowing can exist side by side with each other. That our spouse is a person that we know at a level that we don't know anybody else on the planet. And yet at the same time, there are moments that they seem alien to us, that we don't understand them, that we don't get them. And sometimes those moments when they happen after knowing each other for decades can be really unsettling. Like, who
Yeah.
is this person? Right. And this movie explores that paradox.
Adam Holtz is our guest here on the Steve Marston Show. He's from pluggedin.com. You know what that reminds me of? I remember one time Rob Reiner in an interview, the late, great director and actor, talking about how he doesn't like to make movies about, superheroes or super fantastical stuff. He likes to tell stories about people that you would know and be next door neighbors with,
Yeah.
just everyday real life kind of things. I think he would have been perfect for this film.
Oh,
If,
yeah.
it sounds like something he would have been
Yep.
behind, maybe had he known about it. But
Yeah.
let's move on here. There's another one that you mentioned, and I hadn't heard of this. And then when I looked at pluggedin.com, I was like, oh, there's probably a reason why I haven't. It's called
Right.
K-Pops.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese film, right?
Well, it's not. It
Oh.
is sort of playing with, those tropes. And
I guess.
K-pop and J-pop are Japanese pop and Korean pop, respectively. But this is, it's actually, I think it's an American movie but it has a definite connection to K-pop. So we meet a guy who is a drummer at like a comedy club, which sounds like a pretty niche sort of deal, right? I'm like, well, that's pretty specific. But he kind of wants to be bigger than that. He drums when he shouldn't, and he meets somebody who he falls in love with, but he's just sort of bombastic and narcissistic. He eventually gets fired. She eventually gets tired of him. She's Korean. Her name is Yeji or Yeji. Forgive me if I'm butchering Korean pronunciation. And they go their separate ways. And years later, he gets an opportunity to be the studio drummer for a Korean, like America's Got Talent or American Idol kind of show. They always have a house band. And he thinks this will be his big chance to, make the career leap he's always wanted to. One of the young contestants is named Tay, and they kind of have an affinity for each other. And it's not long before he realizes that they have an affinity for each other because Tay is his son, and his old girlfriend had moved back to Korea and not
wow.
told him that she was pregnant. And so K-pops, it's, like your dad, your pops. It's a play on words. And it really explores this guy who's just kind of a narcissist. growing up and beginning to take some responsibility. And it's a nice movie. It's a pretty sweet movie. It plays with some of those musical tropes and TV tropes. It has, I think, more profanity than it needed to have, and that's always a very subjective thing to say,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
Do you need any profanity? Probably not. But this is a movie that feels like is fairly lighthearted and family focused, and so I think with movies that otherwise have a generally positive sort of vibe, that seem like they could appeal to a younger audience, it's just annoying when they load it up with profanity, and there are some suggestive things that float around here too. It's nothing crazy over the top, but yeah, they always feel like a disappointment to me.
Adam Holtz is our guest here on the Steve Marston Show. He is the director of pluggedin.com. It's a ministry of focus on the family. And each one of these reviews that we're talking about, plus literally hundreds and hundreds more, are on the website. And you can see it's broken down by content caution, like
Yep.
the one we just talked about, K-pops. For kids, it's heavy. For teens, it's medium. For adults, it's light as far as
Yep.
the cautions. And then the reasons why, well, it's all broken down there. And then you can go and navigate through there and decide, well, is this something we want to go see as a family, or maybe just me and the wife as a date night,
Right.
and you can make your own decision on that. So pluggedin.com is phenomenal. I just really love the way you guys set it up and the way that you do it. Let's talk about this one, The Secret Agent. This one
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, it does, and it's one of the reasons that I want to talk to you about it, because it got nominated for Best Picture. So here's an example of another under the radar movie set in Brazil about a guy who's a former professor who he's on the run in the 1970s. The government's after him, hitmen are after him. Maybe he was a secret agent, maybe he's a former professor, maybe we don't really know what his deal is. For what it is, it's a well-crafted film. I mean, it got nominated for an Academy Award, and if you're a cinephile, that's a fancy word for somebody who loves movies, you probably already know about it, and it's probably on your radar. And if you're not a cinephile, you're like, is this a superhero movie? Is this a James Bond movie? No, it's not either of those things. It is, unfortunately, a very, very, very rated R movie, which pretty much pick your category of content, a ton of profanity, a ton of language, and unfortunately a ton of pretty graphic sexual content. And this is an example of, I think, why Plugged In exists, because I think you could watch the trailer and it's almost got kind of an old, almost Clint Eastwoodish kind of vibe to it,
Well, it's funny you say that, because I thought kind of the same thing, because I've only seen the trailer on this, and I thought it does seem like kind of a throwback like that.
Well, it feels like a Western almost,
Yeah,
where
exactly.
it's got that kind of High Plains drifter kind of vibe to it. Who's this mystery man who is quietly on the run, and why are people chasing him? And is he who we think he is? He might or might not be, but there's a lot of stuff you're going to see along the way in his journey that you might wish afterwards,
Yeah.
I wish that I had checked out the Plugged In review, because it's got some stuff in it. And I think especially when it comes to graphic sexual content, a lot of people are going to draw the line there. There are a lot of movie lovers that can deal with some violence, maybe even deal with some language. But man, you throw that other stuff in there and you're like, oh, come on. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Did we
What are
have
we
to
doing?
have that in the mix?
Exactly.
So,
And you can leave so much more to the imagination if you
yeah.
don't show the graphicness of it.
Yeah, and
there's so many ways to shoot around it.
pretty graphic. So,
Well, that's disappointing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is disappointing, and it's the kind of movie that Hollywood loves, right? This is your typical Oscar Best Picture nominated movie that is R-rated and loaded up with a lot of content that it's like, oh, does that make it risky? It's like, it's 2025. I don't need my movies loaded up with that stuff. If you want to go find that stuff, it's all out there somewhere, right?
Exactly. Oh, sure.
So, and I'm not suggesting anybody do that, but I'm just saying that, come on, a little bit of restraint is a good thing.
Well, let me ask you about this one because producer Tommy and I were talking about this one off the air. And I don't think that you guys have a review of it yet. So if I'm
Okay.
putting you on the spot, I don't mean to.
No,
But
that's right.
it's Scream 7, which goes way back. I had no idea there were 6 other Scream movies.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember the first one and vaguely remember the second one, but
Yeah.
now it's like they have to have jumped the shark on this, right?
Well,
A
they
long
jumped the
time ago.
shark and then they jumped the shark back in the water. I mean, it's nostalgia that is completely run into the ground. And I think Scream's appeal has always been that it's kind of meta. You know, it kind of
Right.
knows what it is and it's making fun of you, it's making fun of the genre, it's making fun of itself. The fact that there are 7 of these things, or the 7th one is coming, we haven't seen it yet. I don't think it's out yet. Indicates to me how sort of, I don't know, imaginatively bankrupt we are culturally. It's like,
Yeah.
really? Is this
Yeah,
all we got left in the tank is Scream 7? I
uh,
saw the first 6 and I'm good, right? I didn't see all 6 of
what
them, but you know
right.
what I'm
But if
saying.
you've seen probably
If
the
you've
first
seen
2,
one,
you've seen them all. That's right.
yes,
Well,
exactly.
Adam, man, we really appreciate you. And again, tell people about
Yeah.
pluggedin.com where they can go. We got about 30 seconds.
So come to pluggedin.com. We review not only movies, but music, TV, video games, YouTube channels, books. We'll tell you what you need to know and help your family. Pluggedin.com. And we're a ministry of Focus on the Family.
And they do things top shelf. It is so, so good. You ought to bookmark it and make it one of your favorite places that you check in often. Adam, thanks so much for your time as always, man. Look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. That is Adam Holtz. Always fun to have him here. More of the Steve Marston Show coming up next. Back here on the Steve Marston Show, thank you for joining us. Whether you're watching or just listening, we're grateful that you have made us a part of your day. Today is a very special day for one of our national ministries that's heard on both of our great radio stations, AM 630 The Word in San Antonio and Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock. It's Truth for Life. Alistair Begg is the Bible teacher, and I make no bones about this. He's one of my favorites, if not the favorite, that we have on the radio stations. He's just so good, and I feel like I learn every time I listen to him. And I've had the pleasure of being able to interview him a handful of times. He's been really nice to the show. And I thought, hey, it would be great to have him on to kind of talk about the ministry today. But as things worked out, he wasn't able to join us. So I thought we'd do the next best thing. This is a portion of the interview we had with him the last time he was on. This dates back to like last December, November, something like that. And this is just a portion of the conversation, but I thought it would be fun to relive because he makes some really good points, and I'd really love for you to hear. We're going to pick up the conversation where he and I were talking about the Christian life really being all about being content. Let's listen.
Yeah, because the same fellow who said godliness with contentment is great gain is the one who said, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which I've been called heavenward in Christ Jesus. Well, why is that? Because you're not contented? No, it's because that's part of the journey.
Yeah, that's the way we were wired.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And to circle back to another one, before we've been talking about Paul, but the main reason we're talking to Alistair Begg today is about his new Bible study on Ecclesiastes. And when you look at this new study that you've got out, it's called Chasing the Wind, and it'll be available soon. You've got kind of a unique way of setting this Bible study up. It's you open the book, study the book, and then live out the book. How does that all work? Walk us through that.
Well, it works if we at least make a stab at it, you know.
Right.
It doesn't work in reverse. First of all, we need to look and see what the scriptures say, and then we've got to ask, what do they mean, and then we've got to ask, why do they matter? And then we ask, if they matter in this way, then how does that intersect with the living of my Christian life at the moment? So that I think one of the great dangers in coming to material in the Bible that perhaps we have a measure of familiarity with is that we don't come with the same spirit of investigation that we do in other areas. So instead of coming and saying, I know what this is about, and therefore I'll remind myself of that. I try and encourage other young men. They don't necessarily always understand what I'm saying, but I say, we have to come to the scriptures with a spirit of agnosticism, with a sense that I don't necessarily know what this means. I know I've heard this story many times, and I know I have certain conclusions about it, but so that the simple prayer that I can't remember if we included in the beginning of it, but make the book live to me, O Lord. Show me yourself within your word. Show me myself and show me my Savior, and make the book live to me. That's simply a prayer for the illumination of the Holy Spirit, that the Spirit of God would open our eyes to the truth that is there in the scriptures. And that's different from just reading the Bible in the hope that we might get, quotes, blessed.
Oh, for sure.
I'd like to get a blessing. Well, sure, that's fine too. But the reason it's written the way it's written with verbs and adjectives and conjunctions and stuff is so that we would apply our minds to it, and that as we think, our minds really matter.
See,
and that's why that's why the writer is saying, I've seen all this stuff. I've seen this stuff, all this stuff that has been done under the sun. I'm an observer. I'm a participant, and I've and I've made certain deductions on the strength of that. And so we follow him as he goes down the line. And he says, I tried wine, women, and song, but it didn't satisfy. I tried seeing everything as if it was funny, like Monty Python's Flying Circus. And that just made me cynical, and I was a mess. And I tried being like an intellectual, but I didn't do real well on that front either. And so we come to the end of that and we go, well, where are we going next? So we follow his line.
Right. And it's so like I say at the top, it's so relevant for today as much as it ever has been, the book of Ecclesiastes. And Alistair Begg has written this brand new Bible study called Chasing the Wind, and it's a verse by verse breakdown of that book. So in maybe less than about 30 seconds, Alistair, can you sum up what you learned as the author studying and putting this together through the book of Ecclesiastes?
Well, I would go maybe a couple of places. One, where he says it is better to go to a house of mourning than to a house of feasting. In other words, it's better to go to a funeral than go to a pizza parlor, because death is the destiny of everyone, and the living must take this to heart. That would be one. And the other, of course, where he says of God, and he makes everything beautiful in his time.
Absolutely.
And so learning to rest in that.
Isn't that good? 31 years ago today, Truth for Life started. So we appreciate Alistair Begg and his time. We got time just for a quick reminder about Faith Between Your Ears. We've been listening to and doing this verse every single day this week. We want you to memorize it, get it on the inside of you, so that whenever life just kind of smacks you around a little bit, you'll know what God's word says. And Philippians 1:21 is the verse we've been studying. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Understand what that means, put it into practice. And again, if it takes writing it out long form a dozen times, or you just speaking it over and over and over out loud, or whatever else tools you use to be able to help you learn and memorize, make sure you get this one inside of you. It's Philippians 1:21. We'll have another Faith Between Your Ears verse coming up on Monday. Stay with us. One more segment. We're back after this.
Here at the Steve Marston Show, we are serious about faith, but we love a good dad joke, too.
Why do melons have weddings?
Why do melons have weddings? I don't know.
Because they can't elope.
Back here on the Steve Marston Show, I am really excited about Monday. I know you're thinking to yourself, Steve, Monday? It's not even Friday evening yet. You can't be talking about Monday. No, but just hang with me for a second, because my buddy Brady Weldon, who is the rock and roll reverend, he's an evangelist and a pastor. He's got a brand new book that's coming out called The Undoing of Not Doing: Why Hesitation is Ruining Your Life. We're going to have him on to talk about the book and to also talk about some other stuff that's on his heart. You never know with Brady. He is definitely an eclectic guy who has a lot of interest, but his heart is for the gospel and for people who don't know Jesus. So I can't wait to have him back on. And we're going to be giving away a signed copy of the new book called The Undoing of Not Doing, coming up on Monday here on the Steve Marston Show. So look forward to that coming up. Every day we like to finish up strong and put a smile on your face and maybe just give you a little bit of a giggle as we part company here. Every day we search high and low, up and down the internet from one end to the other to find the best comedy clip of the day. And this one, I think, fits the bill pretty well. I had never really heard of this guy before. His name is Dustin Nickerson. And this clip was just really made me laugh. And because we always talk about how we want to tell our kids to, follow their dreams and they can take you anywhere. Well, Dustin Nickerson says, maybe tap the brakes on that a little bit. Stop telling kids not to chase their dreams. So let's listen a little bit to what he had to say about it.
Got to stop telling kids to believe in their dreams. We got to stop. Try your dreams. Maybe. My kid wants to be in the NBA. No. Look at me. There are no me's in the NBA. My son's like, no, my teacher said I can be anything I want. When I go, son, you're not going to grow up to be a tall black man. That's not going to happen. That's not in the cards for you, all right? My kid loves sports, though. He called me and was like, Dad, sometimes there's exceptions. Sometimes short little white guys make it to the NBA. Dad, what about John Stockton? John Stockton, yeah. Hall of Famer. Dad, all-time Hall of Famer, all-time leader in assists. I said, yes, son, assists. His best skill, passing to the black guys. He wasn't good at basketball. He was good at hot potato. He was.
That's fun stuff. I love it. The guy, again, his name is Dustin Nickerson. All right, we're just about out of time for today on the Steve Marston Show. I want to say a big thanks to producer Tommy for not only production of the show, but all of the social media stuff you see. It's all because of him, and he does phenomenal with that. So thank you for that. Thanks to Adam Holtz for joining us from PluggedIn.com, a ministry of Focus on the Family. Thanks most of all to you for listening. Encourage someone, let your light shine, and be in church on Sunday. We'll be back together Monday at 3 o'clock. Hope you can join us. Bye.